We are entering the strait. All stations report readiness.
Deck crew standing by, Captain. Systems green.
Breaking news. International forces have entered Hormuz.
Today, we're talking about the impossible crossing. For over a month, one of the world's most critical maritime arteries has been in a total stranglehold. But something just changed. We're going to break down what just happened and why this one event could signal a huge shift in a global crisis. So here's the deal. Since the war began, the Strait of Hormuz, that absolutely vital channel for global energy, has been pretty much shut down by Iran. We're talking commercial shipping grinding to a halt. It's sent massive shockwaves through the global economy, and honestly, the whole situation has felt like a complete and total deadlock.
And yet, here's the twist. Against all odds, two ships, one with Western ties, one with Japanese ties, just got through. So, how? That's the central mystery we're unpacking today. How in the world did they pull off a transit that pretty much everyone thought was impossible?
All right, let's get right into it. What exactly just happened here? And who are these two ships at the very heart of this story? Okay, so on Thursday, these two ships broke the blockade. You've got the CMA-CGM Kribi, which is French-owned, and the Sohar LNG, a tanker co-owned by a Japanese company. Now, their successful passage is a huge deal, and it's all about their ownership. See, these aren't just any old ships. They represent the very first major crack we've seen in Iran's maritime blockade against Western and allied nations. And just as a quick refresher for anyone who needs it, the Strait of Hormuz, it's basically the world's energy choke point. It's this tiny, narrow strip of water, and it's the only way for ships to get from the Persian Gulf out to the open ocean. That makes it, without a doubt, one of the most strategically important places on the entire planet.
And to really put that into perspective, think about this. In normal times, a full 1/5 of all global oil and natural gas shipments pass right through there. So yeah, when that flow gets disrupted, you can bet that everyone, everywhere, feels it on their energy bills.
And disrupted is putting it mildly. The numbers are just staggering. We've gone from about 120 ships passing through every single day to a grand total of just 221 ships in over a month. That's not a slowdown, folks. That is a near total shutdown.
So you're probably wondering, who are these few ships that have been getting through? Well, a massive 60% of that tiny trickle of traffic has been Iranian ships, or ships going to or from Iran. And the other 40%, mostly from nations that are seen as neutral or friendly to Tehran. Think the UAE, China, and India. It just goes to show you how tightly Iran is controlling who gets in and who gets out. Okay, so that brings us right back to the million-dollar question. How did these two ships do it? Because let's be clear, this was not a simple voyage. It was an incredibly high-stakes gamble that involved some serious risks and, as we'll see, some very clever tactics.
So get this, they didn't even travel together. They each took a completely different and super risky path. The French ship, the Kribi, it went north, right through Iranian-controlled waters on a route that some are now calling the Tehran toll booth. Meanwhile, the Sohar LNG took this brand new southern route, hugging the coastline of Oman.
Yeah, that name, the Tehran toll booth, which comes from the shipping journal Lloyd's List, it really says it all, doesn't it? It suggests there's some kind of system where Iran is giving pre-approval, maybe for a fee, maybe because of some back-channel diplomacy, and just letting certain ships pass through its waters.
But the routes were only half the story. The other part was some clever, let's call it transponder trickery. They were broadcasting deceptive messages. So the Sohar LNG, it signaled Omani ship, trying to appear neutral. But the Kribi, well, it took a totally different and way bolder approach. It openly broadcast owner France in its destination field. Being that transparent when everyone else is trying to hide, that was a huge risk, and it might just signal a whole new tactic.
Okay, so two ships got through. Big deal, right? Well, yeah, it's a huge deal. What does this actually mean for the rest of us? Because this is not just some regional shipping issue. It's already triggering a massive global ripple effect.
You can bet the diplomatic phones have been ringing off the hook. France and Japan, they're now officially coordinating their efforts.
European countries are already talking about plans for a post-war mission to escort ships. And get this, a powerful group of 7 nations, including the UK, France, Germany, and Japan, put out a joint statement flat out condemning Iran's actions. It really looks like a united international front is starting to form.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? This whole thing matters so much because it's a crisis with incredibly deep legal and diplomatic implications. The fight over who controls the strait is a direct challenge to the international order and that core principle of free navigation.
And of course, there's the economic fallout. This is where it hits home for most of us. The blockade has driven up energy prices, no surprise there. But for the shipping companies themselves, the financial risk of even thinking about this route has just gone through the roof. And that risk comes with a really, really hefty price tag. We're talking about war risk insurance. Before all this, insuring a ship for this trip costs less than 1% of its total value. Now, that premium can be anywhere from 3.5% to 10%. On a tanker that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, well, you can do the math. That's an absolutely insane amount of money for a single trip.
And this quote from an insurance broker really nails it. It is going up and down almost on an hourly basis. Can you imagine? The situation is so volatile that insurers are reassessing the risk constantly, and prices are changing practically by the hour. That kind of uncertainty is just paralyzing for the whole shipping industry.
So, okay, these 2 crossings are a huge development, no question. But they also force us to ask a really fundamental question about what happens next. What does the future hold for this vital and now incredibly uncertain waterway?
Well, at the heart of this whole conflict is a legal principle called transit passage. Now, the easiest way to think about it is like a public highway on the water. Under international law, all ships have the right to pass through freely, continuously, no questions asked. But Iran disputes this. They argue for a much more restrictive rule called innocent passage. That's more like a private road, where Iran gets to be the gatekeeper and decide who gets to pass based on their own security concerns.
So what you have are 2 totally opposing visions for the future of the Strait of Hormuz. On one side, Iran wants to create a new normal, a system where it controls who gets in and out. And on the other side, you have the international community, which is pushing hard to restore the old normal, complete freedom of navigation for everybody, just like international law says.
Look, the passage of these 2 ships, it's a hopeful sign, for sure. But it doesn't solve this fundamental clash, not by a long shot. And it leaves us with the critical question for global trade, for global security, for our energy supply. Will this choke point ever be truly open and free again? Right now, the answer to that question is dangerously uncertain.